Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, more personalities are asking the government to collect the Marcos family 203 billion peso unpaid estate taxes. What happens to the agency tasked to recover the Marcos family's ill-gotten wealth if Bongbong Marcos wins the presidency? And following controversies from his stint as Comelec chairman, where is Andy Bautista now? Former PCGG and Comelec chairman Andres Bautista joins us live. Senator Coco Pimentel slams the delayed collection of the unsettled estate taxes of the Marcoses, saying the matter calls for an executive action. Former Internal Revenue Chief Kim Menares clarified that the estate taxes must be paid regardless of whether they were acquired legally or not. Meantime, presidential candidate Bongbong Marcos says he will strengthen rather than abolish the Presidential Commission on Good Government. Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have former PCGG and former Comelec chairman Andy Bautista. Dean Andy Bautista, welcome to The Source. It's good to see you again.
Hi Pinky, magandang umaga sa iyo at magandang umaga sa lahat ng mga nakikinig.
Matagal na rin pong napag-uusapan the past weeks itong tinatawag na estate tax. So the BIR actually sent a demand letter to the Marcoses for the payment of 203 billion pesos. I want to start with this. As former PCGG chair, what was the involvement of the PCGG regarding this? What did the PCGG know about this unpaid estate taxes?
Well, Pinky, as you know, we were appointed to the commission in 2010. September 2010. No? So at that time, the commission was already 25 years old. And that itong matter kasi of the estate tax is really a matter between the executor of the estate and the Bureau of Internal Revenue. So in a way, walang kinalaman dyan ang PCGG. I think that the issue more is what are the assets that comprise the estate? At sa aking pagkakaalam, yung mga sequestered assets ay hindi isinama dun sa estate. So when they computed the estate, I think it was about 23 billion pesos as of 1997. And I think there is a Supreme Court decision in that regard. No? And kasi nga hindi binayaran, maraming penalty, maraming surcharges. So I hear that it's about 203 or 204 billion pesos already at this point. And kumbaga yung metro niyan tumatakbo pa.
Opo. So umakyat na po from originally 23 billion to 203 billion pesos. But when you said this is between the executor of the estate and the BIR, sino ho ba yung executor of the estate?
Again, ang pagkaalam namin is that when President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. died, the co-executor of the estate was Mrs. Marcos and Ferdinand Marcos Jr.
So, mother and son, sila po yung executor?
Yun ang pagkakaalam ko.
Okay, you were mentioning a while ago that the role really of the PCGG was to recover ill-gotten wealth of the Marcoses. And you said earlier that sa pagkaalam niyo po, when it comes to these unsettled estate taxes, were these properties that were discovered by the PCGG or not?
Maybe some of them. But for example, may mga properties na wala namang issue eh. Halimbawa, yung bahay nila sa San Juan, yung malaking bahay sa San Juan. I think that was a property that they purchased even before Ferdinand Marcos Sr. was running for the Senate. So may mga assets naman yata na, there was no issue. But siguro maganda dyan, tignan natin yung naging desisyon ng Supreme Court. I think it was a Supreme Court decision in 1997. At tignan natin kung ano ba yung mga assets that constituted that estate so as to amount to 23 billion pesos. Kasi, alam mo naman, Pinky, kahit na 1997 yun, 23 billion pesos, malaking pera na yun. So,
but would you
siguro
know,
ang dapat gawin natin,
Dean, would you know which properties these are?
right now, I don't. Kasi sabi ko nga, kami sa PCGG, ang aming focus was to recover all the other ill-gotten wealth assets, no? Kumbaga, yung mga hindi pa nahahanap at that point in time. Tapos we were also nursing yung mga kaso na nakabinbin sa ating mga korte. And I remember that at that time, there were about 125 billion pesos worth of assets that are still being contested in various cases that were filed against the Marcos family and their cronies. So,
125,
separate pa
okay.
yun eh.
I want to
so
talk
siguro
about that a
talaga
little later
maganda.
on, no? I want to talk about that a little later on, Dean. I just want to go back to your stint as PCGG chair. So you were chairman from 2010 to 2015. Thereafter, naging chairman po kayo ng Comelec. With regards to this estate tax liability, what did you know? Did you speak to the Marcoses at any given point when you were PCGG chair to somehow help or have some sort of agreement with this in terms of payment?
Well, we did, what happened, Pinky, was that we got a call from the executive secretary at that time in 2011. And apparently the Marcos siblings wanted to meet with the PCGG. But this was really towards a settlement. No? It was not just about the tax liability, but like an overall settlement of the cases that had been filed against them. So nung tinawagan kami, tinanong ko kay ES, sabi ko sa kanya, meron ba itong, kumbaga, is there a go-ahead from Pinoy, no? President Aquino at that time. Sabi niya, oo lang, okay lang naman daw na makipag-meeting sa kanila para malaman kung ano yung kanilang gustong i-propose, no? So nakipag-meeting kami sa tatlong kapatid, the Marcos siblings. It's a very cordial meeting. At basically, ang tanong nila sa amin was, ano ba sa tingin namin yung amount na pwedeng tanggapin ng gobyerno para nga masettle na itong mga kasong ito, no? So it is not specifically in respect of the taxes, but really an overall settlement of the cases, the supposed ill-gotten wealth, etc. So sabi ko,
go ahead, sir.
Yung nga, sabi ko, siguro we have to start kung ano ba yung sinasabing, ano yung estimate nung ill-gotten wealth, no? And at that time, I remember there were three estimates that were being floated. First was the estimate that was given by the first chairman of PCGG, Senator Jovito Salonga. Sabi niya, in his book, Presidential Plunder, he estimated it to be about $5 to $10 billion. However, the former U.S. ambassador to the Philippines, Stephen Bosworth, gave a testimony to one of the congressional committees in the U.S., saying that he estimated the ill-gotten wealth to be $10 billion. But there was also an estimate provided by Dr. Jesus Estanislao and Dr. Bernie Villegas. And as you know, Dr. Estanislao used to be the finance secretary, and their estimate was closer to $30 billion. Dr. Estanislao and Dr. Villegas are, you can still speak to them, so you can also ask them kung ano yung basis ng estimate. So sabi ko sa kanila, we need to have a negotiating framework na pwede nating i-presenta. No? Sabi ko sa kanila na, kumbaga, this was beyond my pay grade na kung magkaka-settlement dito, hindi lang PCGG ang mag-approve nito. We can only recommend it to the president at mahalaga na maging transparent tayo. No? Sabi ko, itong gawin natin, isipin nila natin. At this, as of 1986, kung sabihin yung 10 billion, tapos magkano ba yung naibalik na yaman at that point in time? No? I think we were about 3 point something billion dollars. Tapos iawas niyo yun, and then yun na, magkakaroon ng negotiation. So sabi ko, siguro maganda, magbigay sila ng parang offer to the Philippine government, and then we can take it up to the office of the president, and we can proceed from there. But after that meeting, we didn't hear from them anymore.
So how many meetings were there?
Just one.
And you never heard from them again?
No, wala nang, there was no offer that was given.
Did you try to reach out to them again to follow up on this possible settlement or negotiating framework?
I did not directly know. Although I think I asked the Office of the Executive Secretary kung merong balita. Sabi nila wala naman daw balita.
But what does that say to you, having to meet with the Marcos siblings? First of all, nung nag-meeting ho ba kayo, sino ang nagpatawag ng meeting? Kayo o sila?
Hindi, sila nga ang tumawag kay ES.
Yes, okay.
At sila ang nag-request ng meeting. Oo.
But
so ako naman,
because,
sabi ko,
Opo, but because they met with you, is that tantamount to admitting that there was ill-gotten wealth? Wala muna tayo sa amount, sir.
Well, Pinky, I think alam mo naman ang sagot doon sa iyong katanungan.
Yeah, but I rather ask you kasi kayo po yung kaharap nila and I'm sure there were possibly
right,
other
but again,
discussions.
Sabi mo nga, bakit ka makikipag-meeting tungkol sa a potential settlement kung hindi mo namang iniisip na meron kang parang gustong ibalik para matapos na yung mga kaso?
So you would surmise that obviously there was, whether one way or another, directly or indirectly, I guess, pag-aamin na may ill-gotten wealth for them to even call the ES, the Executive Secretary, to have a meeting on this and possibly work on a settlement. But the problem is, hindi po ito natuloy. Because after that one meeting, there was no follow-up thereafter.
That's correct.
During your stint, though, so you were there for 5 years, was there any even verbal settlement or, kasi sabi niyo nga, one meeting lang pero even during that first meeting, nagkaroon po ba ng kahit na konting kasunduan or any of that sort that would have made you believe that this could progress?
Wala naman. I can't say that. Na talagang the meeting was exploratory. I think they wanted to get a feel as to how, number one, how the PCGG at that point in time would be amenable or would be supportive of a potential settlement. I think they also wanted to get a feel about how the President Aquino, would he be open to such a settlement as well? So parang we were, they were feeling us out. And ako naman, sabi ko, I think, the fact na binigyan ako ng green light na makipag-meeting sa kanila, na open to a settlement ang pamahalan at that point in time. Pero nga, after that initial meeting, wala nang naging follow-up.
Wala na. And the Executive Secretary, of course, is Paquito Ochoa.
That's correct.
Okay. Quick question on this also, one that has been raised. I hope you can help us understand a situation like this. If we're talking about estate taxes that are not paid, does that have to fall under the category of it is not ill-gotten or it is ill-gotten? Ibig ko lang sabihin ho dito kasi kung ill-gotten, there's no estate tax. If I'm not mistaken, sir, to pay. Because technically government should be running after that. But if it's estate taxes that are not illegally required, then that automatically makes them liable to file the estate tax return and subsequently pay it.
Well, not really, Pinky, kasi isipin mo na lang, no? For example, may tao, nagnakaw siya ng pera sa bangko. So, nakuha niya yung perang yon. Tanong, dapat ba siyang magbayad ng tax on that, on that money? And ang sagot niya ng BIR is yes, because as far as they're concerned, pagka naging pag-aari niya na yung perang yon, kahit na ninakaw man or through unlawful means, as far as they're concerned, kanila na yun. Pero dito nga, ang pwede sanang nangyari or pwede pa rin mangyari, kung sabihin ng, for example yan, pinapatawan sila ng estate tax ng BIR dahil itong asset na ito kasama doon. No? Ang pwede nilang sabihin, hindi naman amin yan eh. So, ibabalik nila yung kung ano mang
yung
property na yun. No? Be it cash, be it real estate, jewelry, di sabihin nila, alam mo, hindi amin yan. Kung kaya't, hindi kami dapat magbayad ng tax yan. I think that would be the
amin yan. Yeah, hindi amin yan. So wala kaming liability hinggil dyan. Kung ganun ang magiging narrative, sir. All right. Okay. Yeah. I still have a lot of questions, but we need to take a very... Go ahead, sir. Let's finish this.
No, ang problema nga lang talaga nga yung yung kumbaga, they are, there's a big issue in respect of what are they going, claiming to be their own lawfully. Yun ang magandang tanong. And siguro ngayon, maganda na, sabi ko nga, yung desisyon ng Korte Suprema noong 1997, siguro naman nakasulat doon kung ano yung mga assets that were listed in the estate. Siguro, himayin natin, tignan natin, ano ba talaga yung kanilang kiniklaim at ano yung hindi. And, I'm sure that the BIR also has some leeway in terms of negotiating what the proper estate tax should be. Pero, kailangan bayaran niya.
At kung tingnan po natin yung mga properties na yon o pag-aari, at sabihin po ng mga Marcos na pag-aari nila yon, subject po yon sa buwis. Tama, sir?
Dapat lang.
Okay. We need to take a very short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our guest today, former PCGG and Comelec Chairman Andres Bautista. Sir, I hope you can help us understand this kasi hindi naman po lahat aware or familiar with estate taxes. Ano po? Ferdinand Marcos died September of 1989. Pagka ganun po ba, what is the process? Does that automatically mean that the Marcos heirs should file the income tax return? Is it income tax return or the estate tax return? How does that work?
Well, medyo complicated nga yung Marcos situation, Pinky, kasi nga he died, as you know, in Hawaii, no. Tsaka yung mga ari-arian nila, ill-gotten or otherwise, was not only in the Philippines but in other parts of the world. So, ang nagyayari sa karaniwang tao, pagka namatay ka, di ba yung estate mo, which comprises all of your assets, okay, usually, di ba, ang tanong, meron bang will o wala bang will? Kasi kung may will, dapat yang to go through probate. At kung wala namang will, yun yung tinatawag nilang intestate succession. Although hindi naman yata issue yun dito. Tapos, during the time of, when President Marcos died, ano pa yan yung civil code natin, conjugal partnership of gains between President Marcos and the wife, Mrs. Imelda Marcos, paano yung hatian. So lahat naman yan nakalagay sa ating batas, no? Usually, you have to file an estate tax. You have to pay an estate tax before you can distribute the assets to the heirs. At ang heirs nga is that yung kanyang asawa at yung kanyang mga anak. Pero ang tanong nga minsan, bakit hindi ka agad nagpa-file ng estate tax return? At ito, hindi lang naman sa mga Marcos, no? Maraming mga pamilya sa Pilipinas na talagang natatagalan bago nagpa-file ng kanilang estate tax kasi minsan may mga pag-aaway, lalo na nga yung mga pamilyang may maraming ari-arian dahil nagkakaroon ng mga controversies na kailangan munang ayusin bago magkaroon ng pagbayad nitong estate tax na ito.
One thing, ano ho ba ang ibig sabihin ng estate tax? Ito ho ba ay mga properties lamang? Or does this include jewelry, paintings, and other things?
Lahat ng ari-arian nung namatay. So, it's cash, real estate, paintings, jewelries, kung ano pa man yung mga things of value, in fact, even mga rights. Kunyari, minsan, di ba, you're part of a corporation, shares of stock. Kunyari, you're a lawyer, shares in a partnership. So, anything of value dapat isama dun sa estado nung namatay at yung pagko-compute ng tax will be based on the total value of the estate.
So when you were PCGG chair at that time, from 2010 to 2015, do you know if they filed this estate tax return?
I do not know, but kasi nga hindi naman sa aming hindi sa aming ahensya yan That's more with the BIR. It was a matter between the BIR and the Marcos family. Although I would think now when they were looking at the settlement, siguro they were looking at a settlement with the entire government na kasama na lahat. Basta kung ano man yung utang or yung kailangan nilang bayaran, parang ang iniisip nila magkaroon ng
settlement
once and for all. Yeah, settlement with the government.
Dean, I'm asking that just so we're familiar with this because Ferdinand Marcos died in 1989. Of course, there's a gap there. You were not PCGG chair before 2010. That's why I was asking if you had any idea if estate tax returns were filed during your time because you spoke to them. Because that leads me to my next question. How soon?
No, okay. The answer, Pinky, is no. I was not aware because it was not really my job to be aware, and nobody told me. So as far as the PCGG was concerned, it was between the Marcoses and the Bureau of Internal Revenue.
All right, but just another follow-up on this, just very quickly. How soon should one file their estate tax return after the death of the patriarch or the death of a family member?
Wala namang wala namang again, and nako matagal ko nang hindi alam yan, Pinky, kasi although mataas yung grade ko sa wills and succession, alala ko yan. Pero I'm not anymore sure, but I also believe that ang nagiging problema lang is that if you don't file immediately, may nagiging mga penalties and surcharges. Pero wala namang, kumbaga, you have to file within a certain date and wala naman yatang nakalagay sa batas na ganon.
Okay, we'll get an update on how much the PCGG has recovered, how much your estimate is of the ill-gotten wealth, the PCGG when you were chairman of the Presidential Commission on Good Government, and how much has been recovered from them. But we need to take another short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. And I'm going to go back to your stint as PCGG chair, Nadine. So an update. During your time, how much ill-gotten wealth, how much was the ill-gotten wealth supposedly of the Marcoses, and how much were recovered during your time?
Well, Pinky, even during our time, we could not really come up with a hard estimate of what it was. And we were still using the estimates that were provided by Ambassador Bosworth, by the first PCGG chair, Jovito Salonga, and itong ang mga economists, Dr. Stanislao and Dr. Villegas. So it's anywhere between $5 to $30 billion talagang estimate. And I always hasten to add, this was as of 1986. So talagang malawak . Tapos pag tinignan mo nga yung mga assets, talaga namang parang it is an estimate that it's a big amount of money. Kaya lang ano ba talaga yung tamang figure? I think that could be debated. When after the Pinoy administration, ang alam ko is that we were able to get, as of that time, about 170 plus billion pesos ang naibalik. So sabihin mo na $4 billion. So ito na lang, no? Itong isipin natin na kung $4 billion yung naibalik as of 2016, at sabihin na natin 10 billion yung estimate, may $6 billion pa na unaccounted for. At $6 billion yan as of 1986. So you can just imagine gaano nakalaki yung perang yan. No? And siguro anecdotally na lang, yung painting na hinabol ng PCGG tsaka New York District Attorney's Office sa New York, ito yung Monet Water Lily painting na inintrega kay Vilma Bautista, who was the social secretary of Mrs. Marcos in New York. No? Itong painting na to, binili nila ng $791,000 in 1977. Nung binenta yan in 2010, it was $32 million. Bilhin mo from 791 to 32 million.
How much
Isang
it's appreciated.
painting lang yan. Ibang klase appreciation eh. Oh. Tapos, tipin mo na lang 160 pa ng mga painting na yan are missing, di ba? Kung napanood nyo yung The Kingmaker, di ba? Merong Picasso, merong Rembrandt, meron daw Michelangelo. You can just imagine, isang maliit na painting can finance so many things, can feed so many people, can build so many classrooms. Isang painting lang yan. So, yun ang scope at saka depth ng pinag-uusapan natin.
And even some of those paintings in the Kingmaker were present at one point, and then at some point, parang nawala po ata sa background ni Mrs. Marcos. But I don't have a lot of time, sir. I have 1 minute left. What I wanted to ask you, sir, what happened to you? Bakit ho kayo umalis ng bansa at kailan ho ba kayo babalik? Kung may plano pa kayong bumalik.
Right. Well, again, thank you, Pinky, for this opportunity. No, na I left because of personal and political reasons. Na, kumbaga, tinarget hindi lang ako, kundi din yung aking pamilya at dinadamay pati yung aking mga magulang, yung aking mga kapatid. Pero okay na rin yun. No? So sinabi ko siguro dapat na rin ako umalis, tapos doon kailangan ko ding magpagamot. Pero ang mas malaking issue din sa akin noon ay yung ating demokrasya. Kasi ang sinasabi nga nila is that dinaya daw ko at ng Smartmatic yung eleksyon ng 2016 para sa vice-presidente. At yan naman ay isang malaking kasinungalingan. No? Unang-una, hindi mo naman pwedeng dayain lang yung vice-president, pero yung president, okay. No? Pangalawa, nag-file ng kaso laban ang Marcos camp kay VP Leni sa ating Korte Suprema. Ayon sa mga tuntunin, dapat sabihin ng mga Marcos, ano ba yung sinasabi nyo nagkaroon ng dayaan? Ano bang mga probinsya? So, pinili
pilot
nila
areas.
Camarines Sur, Negros Oriental at Iloilo. So, nagkaroon ng manual recount dito sa mga probinsyang ito. No? 2 million votes ang binuksan muli, manually recounted. At anong lumabas? Hindi lang nanalo si VP Leni at wala namang naging lokohan, kung hindi pa nga, dahil nga binabaan nila yung sa shading, mas lumaki pa yung naging lead ni VP Leni. Tapos, yun nga, ang Korte Suprema, 4 na taon na talagang tinignan nila itong kasong ito. At anong sinabi nila at the end? In a 93-page decision, unanimous, okay? 15 members of the Supreme Court, 13 of which were appointed by President Duterte. Walang dayaan na nangyari.
Alright.
Tapos ito lang sa Smartmatic, Pinky, let me just say this. No? Alam mo yung Smartmatic, kumbaga nung nagkaroon tayo ng automated elections, nandiyan na sila. 2010, nung time yata ni Chairman Melo. 2013, nung time ni Chairman Brillantes, Smartmatic din ang ating automated election provider. Nung na-appoint kaming 3, in May 2015 sa Comelec.
Right.
Okay? Nandiyan na rin yung Smartmatic eh. Okay? So tapos sasabihin nila, hindi, yung Smartmatic, Smart Magic daw. At in fact, sinabi yata ni Pangulo Duterte, hindi na natin yung gagamitin muli. But in 2019, sino pa rin ang automated elections provider ng Comelec? It was still Smartmatic. And ngayon, 2022, sino pa rin ang... So bakit ako linilink sa Smartmatic? Wala naman akong kinalaman sa kanila.
Dean, I'm really sorry, but we've run out of time. Again, I want to thank you for this interview. As mentioned a while ago, it's good to see you again, and take care of yourself.
As well. Maraming salamat, Pinky.
Thank you. Thank you, former PCGG and Comelec Chairman Andres Bautista, and CNN Philippines has been reaching out to the Marcos camp for their comment on this issue, but they have yet to respond. Thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.